Located near the heart of Jerusalem is a place called the Garden Tomb, what some believe was the garden of Joseph of Arimathea. Here some believe Jesus died, was buried, and then rose from the dead. The garden is a 2-acre oasis in the often hectic city of Jerusalem. British Christians bought the garden 125 years ago and formed the Garden Tomb Association. For years, they've allowed visitors here free of charge. Richard Murrian is the director of the Garden Tomb.
What we do have here in the garden is a perfect representation of the biblical account at the end of the 4 Gospels. Everything in those 4 Gospels matches what we show people here in the garden.
Today, nearly 250,000 visitors pour into the Garden Tomb each year. Guide Steve Bridge took CBN News on a tour visitors get when they come to the garden.
What we plot out is the basic geography that we have in the Bible. Jesus was crucified outside of the city walls at a place called Golgotha, and in the immediate area to where Jesus was crucified there was a garden that belonged to a rich man by the name of Joseph of Arimathea.
We came first to the place the Bible calls Golgotha, where the book of Matthew says, "And when they had come to a place called Golgotha, that is to say, place of a skull."
What are some of the main questions that people ask you when they come here?
I mean, some of the main questions, certainly from Christian groups, would be around, can we be certain that this is the place where Jesus died and where he was raised to life? People often ask about how come there are 2 places, there's here and there's the Holy Sepulchre.
The question arises because some believe Jerusalem's Church of the Holy Sepulchre is the actual place of the crucifixion and resurrection, not the Garden Tomb. Constantine's mother, Queen Helena, helped build the church in 326 AD. The archaeological weight supporting the church's claim is substantial. For example, the Roman Emperor Hadrian built a temple on the site in the 2nd century because local Christians venerated the site as the place of Golgotha. But the evidence for the garden can be compelling too. The Gospel of John says, "At the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden." If you have a garden, you need lots of water, especially in the dry Middle East. The Garden Tomb contains one of the oldest and largest cisterns in Jerusalem. It's 2,000 years old and holds about 200,000 gallons of water.
So the tomb that we have here is typical of a 1st century Jewish rolling stone tomb. It's dated as being at least 2,000 years old, possibly older.
In the garden, the Bible also says there was a tomb.
It is carved out of the solid rock. It's a man-made tomb, and that's how the Bible describes the tomb in which Jesus' body was lain. This channel that you can see in front of the tomb entrance is where the stone would have sat that would have been rolled across to seal the entrance to the tomb. So finally, the most important thing about this tomb itself is that it's empty. So why don't we go inside and have a look?
Okay.
What we're looking at when we look in this direction is through into the burial chamber itself. And what you have inside the burial chamber are these 2 areas where a body would be lain, one just down here and one on this side.
The tomb itself seems to fit the Bible's description. But whether the Garden Tomb or the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is the site of the resurrection of Jesus, many Christian pilgrims take with them a profound affirmation of their faith.
I'm a Bible teacher in the States, and I have so many pictures and things to go back and to show them, and want to just take some of this passion back that Jesus is who he says he is, and he is the Son of God, and he did walk this earth.
As people look forward to Easter, those at the Garden Tomb stress, it's not the place, it's the person.
The Bible writers really weren't that interested in establishing where Jesus died. The Bible writers themselves were much more interested in Jesus Christ himself, who he is, why he died.
And that's what we want people to take away, that the tomb is empty. And we as Christians of all the world faiths serve a living God who has overcome death, who has dealt with the sin in our life. And Jesus is the centrality of our Christian faith, is he not? And so here in the garden, that's what we want people to take away, is the living Lord Jesus. The Easter weekend is the weekend that changed the world, and the weekend when Jesus died and was buried and rose again for me and for you.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.